You know, usually when we think about the ancient Maya civilization, we picture these like incredibly dense, overgrown jungles in Central America.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, massive stone pyramids towering over the canopy.
Right, exactly. And, intricate calendars mapping out the cosmos. But there's always this enduring historical mystery, right? Like, how does a civilization of millions of people seemingly just vanish?
Yeah, if you pick up a standard history book, the archaeologists are going to give you the usual suspects. They talk about systemic collapse,
Or maybe a catastrophic, centuries-long drought.
right, or massive chaotic migrations out of the cities. But it is always framed as a tragedy,
Hmm.
like a failure of resources. A society that basically just starved itself out of existence.
But what if we completely threw out that historical playbook? What if they didn't collapse at all? What if instead they achieved something so radical it breaks our fundamental understanding of physics?
Which is a massive pivot from conventional archaeology, that's for sure. I mean, forces you to look at historical gaps, not as graves, but as, well, escape hatches.
Escape hatches. I really like that. Okay, let's unpack this because today's custom deep dive is taking us way off the beaten path.
Way off.
Yeah. We are on a mission today to explore a highly unconventional text. It was translated into English back in 2006 by an author named Su Feng, and it claims to literally hold the key to human immortality.
Yeah, the source material we're looking at focuses on something called the Ninth Mystery.
Right, sometimes referred to as the ninth insight.
Exactly. And this allegedly derives from historical documents found in South America, known as the Peruvian manuscripts.
And the absolute wildest claim from this text, like the hook we need to tackle right out of the gate, is that the sudden, unexplained disappearance of the ancient Maya wasn't a collapse.
Right.
They didn't die out. The author claims they collectively became immortals.
And before we get into the actual literal mechanics of how an entire civilization supposedly pulls off mass immortality, let's establish the sandbox we are playing in today.
Good idea.
Because this material is a very unusual blend. It mixes alternative history, spiritual philosophy, and some pretty heavy religious referencing into this one grand theory of everything. So think of us as impartial architects today.
Right, we're just looking at the blueprints.
Exactly. We aren't buying the house this author is selling, and we certainly aren't endorsing the viewpoints or taking sides or validating the theology or the physics. We are simply going to impartially walk through it. We're going to examine how the bizarre plumbing of this theory works and explore these alternative perspectives purely for your intellectual curiosity.
Exactly, just checking out the architecture. And, to understand how a civilization could allegedly upgrade to immortality, we actually have to start at the basement of this theory.
The very bottom, yeah.
The absolute foundation of this manuscript is its unique perspective on human interaction. The core argument is that all of human history, like everything we have ever done as a species, is fundamentally an ongoing, unseen battle for energy.
And not just a battle for resources like land or gold, right?
Right.
We are talking literally biological and spiritual energy.
Right.
The premise starts with early human history. It argues that primitive humans evolved in a state of total unconsciousness regarding their own potential. Because they didn't know how to generate their own energy internally, they had to parasitize it.
Meaning they had to steal it from others.
Exactly. And they did this through a relentless cycle of physical conquest.
So it's basically a brutal prehistoric game of energy tag. You hit someone with a club, you conquer their tribe, and by dominating them, you literally absorb their vital energy.
Yeah, and that surplus energy allows you to survive and evolve a little bit further.
But then inevitably, someone with a bigger club comes along, conquers you, and steals all that accumulated energy right back.
That's the baseline mechanism, according to the text. It's a constant, violent exchange of power, where humanity is just shuffling the exact same limited pool of energy back and forth through warfare.
But wait, let's follow that logic into the present day. Because if physical conquest was the primary method for stealing energy, where does that leave us now? I mean, we aren't out there raiding neighboring villages on a daily basis.
No, generally speaking.
Right. So according to this manuscript, if physical conquest was just about stealing energy, how does modern society fit into this? Like, have we evolved past this energy theft, or are boardroom meetings and political debates just the same game of tag in a different outfit?
You're actually hitting on one of the most provocative ideas in the whole manuscript right there. Because you'd think the invention of democracy and modern civil society would be viewed as the end of that barbaric conflict, right?
Yeah, like a triumph of cooperation.
Exactly. But the author argues the exact opposite. The invention of democracy didn't end the human conflict for energy at all. It just sanitized it.
Wow, so it just moved the battlefield indoor.
Precisely. It shifted the arena from physical violence to mental and spiritual confrontation. I mean, think about a really intense political debate, or even just a bitter argument with a colleague.
Oh, sure.
The underlying dynamic there, that need to dominate to prove yourself right and the other person wrong, is still an attempt to absorb energy. When someone wins a fierce argument, they often walk away feeling invigorated, right?
Oh, totally. Powerful, completely energized.
Yeah. And the person who lost?
They feel totally drained, exhausted, like something was literally taken from them.
Because, according to this theory, something was taken. The energy transfer still happened. We are still unconsciously fighting for our lives to steal energy from each other.
We're just using legislation, social hierarchies, and verbal dominance instead of spears and swords.
Exactly. The mechanism of evolution is still fundamentally parasitic.
That is a wildly cynical, but honestly fascinating way to look at modern society. We're just energy vampires in suits.
Pretty much.
But it also sounds like a miserable way to live. I mean, if humanity is currently trapped in this endless mental and spiritual battle, constantly draining each other just to get through the week, how do we opt out? If the Maya actually escaped this cycle, there has to be a mechanism for breaking the loop.
There is, and it requires a massive paradigm shift.
Mm.
The proposed solution is moving from that unconscious evolution we just talked about into conscious evolution.
Okay, conscious evolution. What does that actually look like?
Well, the very first step to stopping the energy drain is simply recognizing that the invisible war is happening. Once you become consciously aware that every conflict is an attempt to steal your energy, you can intentionally refuse to play the game.
Right, you just stop participating.
Exactly. You stop trying to steal from others, and more importantly, you stop letting others provoke you into giving yours away.
Okay, I'm following the logic here. If I stop hemorrhaging energy in traffic jams and internet arguments, my battery starts to charge.
Right.
But the manuscript takes this a step further, right? It isn't just about preserving energy. It's about actively generating it through a very specific daily practice involving coincidences.
Yes, that's the real catalyst here. The text argues that to truly level up our energy, we have to fundamentally change how we process synchronicity.
Let me see if I can deduce how this works. Say I'm thinking about an old friend I haven't spoken to in like 10 years. 2 minutes later, my phone rings and it's them.
A classic coincidence.
Right. Normally, I'd just say, wow, what a weird random coincidence, and then I'd go about my day. But the text is saying that brushing it off as random is a missed opportunity.
Oh, it's worse than a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
It's a fundamental misunderstanding of reality. The author argues that true conscious evolution requires you to view those moments not as accidents, but as inevitable events on a deeply necessary chain.
So they're supposed to happen.
Exactly. When you consciously recognize that the universe is highly organized and that this phone call was a deliberate connection, you align yourself with the universal flow of energy rather than fighting against it.
So by acknowledging the pattern, you basically plug yourself directly into the source.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
But let's push this out of the philosophical realm and into the physical, because this is where the claims get truly wild. Wait, so me noticing a weird coincidence on my way to work is supposed to fundamentally alter my biology. How does the text explain the actual physical change? Because it isn't just speaking in metaphors here.
No, not at all. It makes a very literal physiological claim.
Yeah.
What's fascinating here is the mechanics of it. The argument is that as you accumulate this energy by stepping out of conflict and plugging into the synchronicity of the universe, the actual vibration frequency of your atomic cells begins to speed up.
My atomic cells, like the literal building blocks of my body.
Exactly. Every atom in your body is in a constant state of vibration. The theory asserts that spiritual energy and physical vibration are deeply, inextricably linked.
Right.
So as your energy increases, the atoms making up your physical form vibrate faster and faster.
Right.
And this has a direct physical consequence. It makes your body physically lighter. It decreases your biological density while simultaneously purifying the mind.
Okay, it's like turning ice into water and water into steam.
Oh, I like that.
Right. The H2O molecules are exactly the same in all three states. They haven't changed what they fundamentally are. But as you add energy, usually in the form of heat, the molecules vibrate faster, they spread out, and the state of matter completely changes. The dense block of ice becomes an invisible cloud of steam.
That is a perfect visualization, yeah. With one critical distinction, though.
What's that?
Well, unlike steam, which dissipates and loses its cohesive shape, The text argues that a highly evolved human maintains their physical structure and consciousness. They just occupy a less dense, higher frequency state of matter.
Wow. And this brings us right back to the jumble, right? The speeding up of atomic vibrations, this human steam concept, is the exact mechanism used to explain the Maya.
Yes, exactly. This is the grand unified theory applied to the archaeological mystery. The text outlines a critical mass, a specific threshold. It claims that the Maya didn't just have a few enlightened individuals. They managed to shift their entire collective society into this state of conscious evolution. They stopped fighting for energy, they accumulated it organically, and their atomic vibrations collectively accelerated.
Until they hit a tipping point.
Exactly. When an entire group of people raises their vibrations past a certain high-frequency threshold, a profound physical transformation occurs. They become completely invisible to the dense, low-frequency world.
Here's where it gets really interesting. It operates exactly like a dog whistle.
Ooh, good analogy.
Think about it. When you blow a dog whistle, the human ear hears absolutely nothing. But just because a human ear can't perceive the frequency doesn't mean the sound isn't happening.
Right, the sound waves are there.
Absolutely real, pushing through the air right in front of your face. They are just vibrating at a frequency that is way too high for our specific biological hardware to register. So the text is essentially arguing that the Mayans didn't abandon their cities. They just, vibrated out of our visual spectrum.
Yeah, the dog whistle analogy nails the concept of relativity, which is so crucial here. This phenomenon is entirely relative to the observer based on the source.
What do you mean by that?
Well, to the Spanish conquistadors, or the modern archaeologists who are left behind, the people who are still vibrating at that lower, denser frequency of conflict and unconsciousness, it appears as though millions of people just mysteriously vanished into thin air.
But if we flip the perspective, what does this look like from the point of view of the Maya? Like, if I'm a Mayan citizen who just crossed this threshold, what happens to my Tuesday morning?
To you, absolutely nothing catastrophic happened.
I didn't fly off into space.
Nope. You didn't dissolve into the ether either. According to this framework, the disappeared group feels perfectly normal. They still possess bodies, they still have a society, and they are existing in the exact same physical spatial coordinates they always have.
They're still there.
Exactly. The only difference they perceive is a profound lightness of being. They are still occupying those massive stone temples in Central America. They're just occupying them at a vibrational frequency we cannot interact with.
So picture this. You have a modern archaeologist carefully brushing dirt off a piece of ancient pottery in the ruins of Tikal.
Okay.
And right there, occupying the exact same three-dimensional space, is a high-vibrating Mayan citizen walking right through the archaeologist to go to the market. Two completely intact realities layered right on top of each other, completely blind to one another.
It is an unbelievably vivid sci-fi concept.
It really is. But it raises a massive logical question. If raising your vibration makes you physically invisible to the physical world as we know it, aren't you just describing death? I mean, if they are invisible, are they effectively ghosts?
So the author draws a very sharp line between this state and death. In fact, it's presented as the ultimate triumph over death.
Okay, how so?
The text views this high vibration state as a conscious, deliberate crossing of the barrier. We traditionally think of a thick wall between this current physical life and the other world, or the afterlife, right?
Usually you have to die to get there.
Exactly. Normally, the only way through that wall is biological death. Your body breaks down and your soul crosses over.
But the Maya bypassed the breakdown.
Precisely. The radical claim is that you can elevate your biology so much that you basically walk right through the wall while you are still alive. You carry your consciousness and your evolved physical form across the barrier without ever having to actually die.
You just vibrate your way across the border. And the author doesn't just use the Maya as a vague collective example for this, do they? They actually point to a very specific, major historical figure to prove this has happened on an individual level.
They do, yeah. The text uses Christ as the definitive historical case study of this exact quantum spiritual physics.
Wait, really? How does Jesus fit into the atomic vibration theory?
Well, according to the manuscript, Christ wasn't performing magic. He was demonstrating advanced physics through conscious evolution.
Okay, I'm listening.
The text asserts that Christ opened himself completely to the universe's energy, completely devoid of any conflict or desire to steal from others. And because of this perfect conscious alignment, his atomic vibrations increased to an unprecedented level.
So he got lighter.
Exactly. His physical body became so light, so low in density, that he could literally physically walk on the surface of water without breaking the surface tension.
Okay, that is a wild reinterpretation. So the miracles in the Bible aren't supernatural interventions. They're just the natural byproduct of a human operating at a peak vibrational frequency.
That's the argument. The author frames Christ's life as a deliberate demonstration. He was the first to cross over in this specific, visible way,
Yeah.
effectively proving that the physical world can be expanded into the spiritual realm.
So he was like a proof of concept.
Yeah. The claim is that his life was essentially a tutorial, showing humanity that if we connect with the same source energy and stop playing the unconscious game of energy tag, we can achieve the exact same mastery over physics. We can transcend death on Earth.
All right, let's bring this all the way down to earth. We've covered a lot of ground today. We've talked about energy vampires and modern politics,
Uh-huh.
atomic vibrations turning people into human steam, invisible Mayan societies overlapping with ours, and Jesus walking on water through quantum physics.
That's a lot.
It is. So what does this all mean for you, the listener, right now? How does this text say we actually start this process step by step?
Right.
If someone is tracking with this theory, what is the actual practical application? How does a normal person sitting in traffic today actually begin this process?
The author provides a surprisingly simple, almost delicate final equation for achieving this ninth insight. And it doesn't require living in a cave or starving yourself.
Oh, good.
The text states, the more beauty we can genuinely perceive in the world around us, the more we evolve.
That sounds nice on a greeting card. But let's pressure test it against the physics we just learned. How does looking at a pretty flower speed up my atomic cells?
It goes back to the concept of resonance versus conflict. When you are truly captivated by beauty, say a stunning sunset or a brilliant piece of art, you aren't trying to conquer it.
No, I'm just enjoying it.
Right. You aren't trying to argue with it or steal its energy. For that brief moment, your internal conflict completely stops. You are in a state of pure, appreciative resonance.
And because I'm not in conflict, I'm not draining my battery, I'm actually harmonizing with a higher frequency.
Exactly. That act of deep perception actively pulls universal energy into your system. And as we establish, more energy equals higher vibration. This brings the entire theory to its ultimate philosophical crescendo.
Which is?
The text asserts that as your vibration increases through this appreciation of beauty, your perception of reality fundamentally shifts. You realize that heaven is not a distant, cloudy destination you hope to travel to after your organs shut down.
If it's not a destination, what is it?
It is a tangible, physical reality that is already here. It is occupying the exact same space you are sitting in right this second. The only reason you don't see heaven right now is because your current biological vibration is too slow and too dense to interact with it.
I've got the perfect analogy for this.
Lay it on me.
It's like having a television from 1995 that only receives standard definition channels.
Okay.
You are sitting in a room that is absolutely saturated with invisible 4K, ultra-high definition broadcast signals. The signals are completely real. They're bouncing off the walls around you, but you just don't have the hardware to tune into them. You're stuck watching standard definition.
And according to Swifting, the conscious appreciation of beauty is the remote control that slowly upgrades your hardware.
Upgrading yourself until the 4K picture of heaven finally clicks into focus right in front of your eyes.
That's exactly it.
I have to say, regardless of how you feel about the literal science being presented here, that is a profoundly poetic way to view human existence, which really frames the author's ultimate motivation. At the very end of this translation, dated June 2006, Shuefeng summarizes exactly why he decided to release this text to the modern world.
Yeah, if heaven is already here in 4K, why drop the remote control now?
Exactly.
Well, the author explicitly states that the goal in sharing this was to spark a fire of extreme self-reliance. He wanted to give people the confidence and the willpower to seek out this immortal state for themselves.
Right. He isn't trying to build a church or gather followers to worship him.
No, he is essentially handing out what he believes is an open-source instruction manual for human evolution. He's saying, here are the principles of energy, here is the power of perception, now go figure it out on your own.
It's the ultimate DIY project. Evolve your own soul.
Precisely. And I think there's a highly practical takeaway here that connects right back to you, the listener, and it doesn't require you to believe in invisible Mayans at all.
Right.
Whether you interpret this entire manuscript as a literal, undiscovered treatise on quantum physics, or whether you view it purely as a beautiful philosophical metaphor for living a better life, The challenge it issues is compelling. It challenges you to completely reevaluate your daily routine.
To stop looking at a random phone call as just a coincidence and start seeing it as a thread connecting you to a bigger picture.
Exactly. And to view a moment of everyday beauty not just as a pleasant distraction from the grind, but as an actual literal stepping stone to a higher state of consciousness. It asks you to stop draining the people around you and start generating your own light.
It definitely changes the stakes of your morning commute. But as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final, lingering thought to mull over today. Something that the text implies, but leaves hanging in the air. Think back to those overgrown, silent jungle temples we started with, and the idea of layered realities. If it is theoretically possible, as this manuscript claims, for entire civilizations to raise their vibrations to the point of invisibility while still living in the exact same physical space, could our modern world currently be populated by invisible, highly evolved societies walking right alongside us?
An overlapping world.
Exactly. Think about it. Are there ancient, enlightened communities walking right alongside you on the sidewalk right now? Are they sitting next to you on the subway or occupying the empty chair in your office?
Wow.
Are they interacting with a utopian, high-frequency version of Earth, a 4K reality that we simply aren't tuned in enough to see yet?
It's a thought that completely changes how you view an empty room.
Or a silent jungle? Until next time, keep exploring.